They said Jaewon-oh hadn't cried since his mother's funeral. They said he'd buried his heart the same day he buried her. They were wrong. It just took a 7-year-old girl and a scruffy little dog named Biscuit to dig it back out. Nobody in Seoul's underground dared look Jaewon-oh in the eyes. Grown men trembled when his car rolled down the street. Rival bosses disappeared without a trace. But on a cold Tuesday morning, a little girl in a yellow raincoat pointed her mud-covered dog at the most dangerous man in the city. And said, "He can find your son. I promise." Jaewon didn't believe her. He should have. Because before that week was over, everything he thought he was would be gone forever. And the woman who would undo him? She didn't carry a weapon. She carried daisies. Seoul didn't sleep. Neither did Jaewon-oh. He stood at the rain-soaked window of his penthouse, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand, or his reflection staring back like a stranger. 41 years old, feared by thousands, loved by none. His son Min-jun had been missing for 6 days. 6 days of silence. 6 days of dead ends. 6 days of Jaewon slowly coming apart behind a face carved from stone. His men had searched everywhere, every alley, every contact, every enemy. Nothing. Then his phone buzzed. His head of security, Tae, sent a single message. "Boss, you need to come downstairs. Now." Jaewon stepped outside into the cold morning air, but stopped. Standing at his iron gate was a little girl, maybe 7, yellow raincoat, mud-stained boots, and beside her a scruffy brown dog with mismatched eyes, wagging its tail like it owned the city. Behind her, slightly breathless, clutching a leash and a bundle of daisies, was a woman. She had no makeup, no designer clothes, just honest eyes and a quiet kind of beauty that didn't ask permission to be noticed. She looked up at Jaewon without flinching. Nobody did that. "My daughter says your son is alive," she said simply, "and Biscuit always finds what's lost. Tell me in the comments, did you believe her? Would you trust a little girl and her dog over an entire Mafia army?" Jaewon stared at her for a long moment. His security team shifted uncomfortably. Tae reached for his earpiece. Nobody brought civilians to the gate. Nobody. But Jaewon raised one hand, and everyone froze. "What's your name?" he asked the woman. "Rose." She didn't look away. "Rose Shin. And you think," he gestured at the dog, "that thing can find my son?" Biscuit sneezed. The little girl, serious-faced, pigtailed, nodded firmly. "Biscuit found my rabbit when he ran into the subway tunnels. He found Mrs. Park's wedding ring in a river. He finds things, mister. That's just what he does." Something cracked, barely visible behind Jaewon's eyes. He looked at Rose. Rose looked back at him, not with fear, not with ambition. Just quiet, steady certainty. "Come in," he said. His entire team exchanged glances. Nobody said a word. Inside the penthouse, Rose sat across from the most dangerous man in Seoul, and didn't tremble once. She watched him spread missing persons photos across the marble table, watched his jaw tighten, watched the way his hands that had signed death warrants, hovered over his son's photograph like they were afraid to touch it. "He's 9, Jaewon said quietly. "His name is Min-jun." Rose looked at the photo. Dark eyes, shy smile, a little boy holding a toy car. Her chest ached. Biscuit needs something of his, a shirt, a pillowcase, anything with his scent. Jaewon stood without a word and disappeared down the hallway. He returned holding a small blue hoodie, folded carefully, like it was made of glass. He handed it to Rose. Their fingers touched for half a second. Neither of them moved immediately. "How do you know about my son?" he asked, voice low. "The whole city whispers," she said. "I just listened." Comment below, what do you think Rose is really feeling right now, sitting across from a man the whole city fears? Biscuit buried his nose into Min-jun's hoodie and inhaled deeply. Then he lifted his head, and pulled. Hard. Rose grabbed the leash. The little girl, Ara, clapped her hands. Jaewon grabbed his coat. Tae stepped forward. "Boss, you can't seriously be..." One look from Jaewon silenced him. They moved through Seoul's back streets. A mafia boss, a woman with daisies still tucked under her arm, a 7-year-old, and a scruffy dog leading them all like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. Rain began to fall. Rose pulled Ara close under her jacket. Jaewon noticed. He said nothing, but he shifted subtly, blocking the wind from reaching them. Rose caught it, didn't comment, but something softened in her expression. Biscuit pulled them deeper into the old district, past shuttered markets and forgotten alleyways until he stopped and barked twice at a rusted metal door beneath a crumbling staircase. Jaewon's body went rigid. He knew this building. It belonged to a man he'd trusted. The door came open in seconds. And there, curled beneath a dusty blanket, clutching his toy car, was Min Jun. Alive. Scared. But alive. "Appa?" the boy whispered. Jaewon crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to his knees. This man who never knelt before anyone, and pulled his son into his arms so tightly the boy gasped. "I've got you," he whispered into Min Jun's hair. "I've got you. I've got you." Rose stood in the doorway. She rain dripping from her hair, daisies crushed against her chest. She watched the most feared man in Seoul shake, not from rage, from relief, from love. Ara slipped her small hand into Rose's and whispered, "I told you Biscuit would find him, Mama." Rose couldn't speak. She just nodded and let the tears fall quietly. Back at the penthouse, Min Jun fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in warm blankets. Biscuit curled impossibly small beside him like a guardian. Jaewon stood in the kitchen doorway watching Rose make tea. She moved like she'd always known where things were. Calm, unhurried, humming faintly under her breath. It undid him completely. "Why did you come?" he asked. "Truly. You could have sent a message. You didn't have to walk through those gates yourself." Rose set 2 cups on the counter. "Because Ara begged me," she said, then paused. "And because I saw your face on the news when they said your son was missing." She looked up. You looked like every parent's worst nightmare. I couldn't ignore that." "I'm not a good man, Rose." She held his gaze. "I know what you are, Jaewon." The sound of his name in her mouth, plain, unafraid, hit him somewhere deep and unguarded. "Then why aren't you afraid?" She slid his cup toward him. "Because the way you held your son just now," she said softly, "that wasn't a mafia boss. That was just a father." Silence filled the kitchen like warm water. Drop a heart in the comments if you believe even the hardest hearts deserve love. And tell me, do you think Rose should trust him? 3 days passed. Jaewon couldn't stop thinking about her. He told himself it was gratitude. He sent flowers. 24 white roses because he'd asked Ty what her favorite was, and then felt immediately ridiculous for asking. Rose sent them back. With a note. "I don't need flowers. I need nothing from you. We're even." Jaewon read it 4 times, then smiled. Actually smiled. For the first time in years. He showed up at her flower shop on Thursday morning. Small place. Hand-painted sign. Smelled like earth and lavender, and something unbearably like home. Rose looked up from behind the counter, and her expression cycled through surprise, suspicion, and something she quickly buried. "You returned my flowers," he said. "Yes." "Why?" "Because accepting them meant something I'm not ready for." He leaned against the doorframe. What if I'm not ready either?" She studied him, this man wrapped in danger and expensive silence. "Then why are you here?" He looked around the shop, at the buckets of blooms, at the handwritten price tags, at the photo of Ara on the wall, gap-toothed and laughing. "Because this is the first place," he said quietly. "That's felt like somewhere I could breathe." Rose said nothing for a long moment. Then she handed him a single daisy. "Don't make me regret this," she whispered. But the world outside wasn't finished with them. Tae came to Jaewon with photographs. Rose entering the shop. Rose walking Era to school. Rose laughing on her phone. She's been seen with Lee Dong-ha's people, Tae said carefully. Twice. Lee Dong-ha, Jaewon's most dangerous rival. The man who'd taken Min Jun. Jaewon's entire body went cold. He drove to the flower shop himself, no call, no warning, and walked in while Rose was closing up. She turned, smiling. And the smile died the moment she saw his face. Who is Lee Dong-ha to you? He asked. Voice flat, eyes unreadable. Rose blinked. He's my landlord. He owns this building. I've been trying to break the lease for months. Why? My people saw you with him. Your people, she said slowly, were watching me? The air between them turned sharp. Jaewon. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. I am a single mother with a flower shop and a dog. I am not your enemy. I am not your spy. And I am not something you get to surveil. He said nothing. Get out, she said quietly, and don't come back. He didn't sleep. Minjun found him at 2 a.m. sitting in the dark living room, staring at nothing. The boy sat beside him without a word, then placed his toy car in Jaewon's hand. Rose fixed this for me, Minjun said quietly. The wheel was broken. She fixed it the day she brought us tea. She didn't tell you because she didn't want you to think she wanted anything. Jaewon closed his fingers around the small toy. She's not like the others, Appa, Minjun whispered. She's just good. The word landed like a verdict. Jaewon sat with it until morning came. He walked into the flower shop before it opened. Rose was arranging sunflowers back to the door. She heard him enter and went still. I was wrong, he said. No preamble, no armor. I'd let fear make me suspicious of the one person who had no reason to help me, and every reason to walk away. Silence. I've spent 20 years building walls, Rose. I don't know how to not do that. She turned slowly. Her eyes were tired, but open. I know what you're walking away from if you walk away from me, he continued. Safety, simplicity, a life without complications. His voice dropped. But I'm asking you not to. Not because I deserve it. Because something about you makes me want to. Rose looked at him for a long, long moment. Then she crossed the shop, stood directly in front of him, and pressed the daisy she'd been holding into his chest. One more chance, Jaewon-oh, she whispered. Don't waste it. He covered her hand with his, gently like she was something rare. I won't, he said. I swear it. From the back room, Ara's voice rang out. Biscuit found your shoe again. Mama. And Jaewon. Oh, the man Seoul feared most, laughed. Really laughed. Full and warm and free. Rose looked up at him, stunned. Then laughed too, and it sounded like the first day of spring. Sometimes the most guarded hearts don't need to be broken open. Sometimes they just need a little girl, a scruffy dog, and a woman brave enough to hand a dangerous man a daisy. And mean it. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to believe in unexpected love today. Subscribe so you never miss a story that hits different. And comment one word that describes how this ending made you feel. Just one word. Let's see what this community says. Like this video if you stayed till the very end, because you deserve to know. The best love stories don't start perfectly, they start honestly.